This is Math 2, 11.5 homework questions. Okay, so I'm going to go over homework questions from worksheet 5, and I'm going to start with number 1. It says, solve using the quadratic formula, simplify your answer in decimal form to the nearest hundredth. We've done that a few times when we were graphing, so you will need a calculator for this. Let's go ahead and work this out. Okay. Actually, most of you guys would most likely be using a calculator like this at home, so I will work it out with this one. Okay. Solve using the quadratic formula, simplify answers in decimal form, nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places. Okay, quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is list our a, b, and c. It equals 0, so a is 3, b is negative 10, and c is negative 8. All right, x equals negative blank plus or minus the square root of blank squared minus blank 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 all over blank blank. This is how it's going to be given to you on the test. And I've said before, always fill in the 2 and the 4 first, because that's always going to be 2 and 4. Everything else just depends on the problem. Okay, here is the b. B is negative 10. Here is also a b, so still negative 10. 4, a is 3. The last blank is c, which is negative 8. 2 times a, which is 3. All right, and then we work it out. Opposite of negative 10 is positive 10, plus or minus the square root of. Negative 10 times negative 10 is 100. And then I have 4 times 3 times 8. 4 times 3 times 8 is 96. And it's going to be plus 96 because the minus and the negative is going to cancel out to make a positive, all over 6. As tempting as it is to reduce, we do not. 10 plus or minus the square root of 196 over 6. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do next is take the square root here. Now typically what I would do at this point is break down the 196, break it down, find its pairs, and then reduce. But since this one said round it to the nearest hundredths, I'm going to plug this in my calculator and get an answer. Okay, x equals 10 plus or minus square root of 196. How do you plug that in your calculator? My square root key is right there above my x squared, so I hit second square root and then 196, and that is 14. All over 6. So I have positive 10 plus 14 divided by 6, and then 10 minus 14 divided by 6. 10 plus 14 is 24 over 6. 10 minus 14 is negative 4 over 6. And we continue. 24 over 6, that is a whole number, that is 4, comma, negative 4 divided by 6. When you plug that in your calculator, negative 4 divided by 6, and you round. I don't know if you can see that at all. Well, you have a calculator in front of you. You can figure it out. Round to the nearest 2 decimal places would be negative 0.67. Negative 0.67. Those two are my solutions. Okay, and let's try number 4. A is 1, B is negative 10, C is 13, x equals negative blank plus or minus the square root of blank squared minus blank 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 all over blank blank. And then you put your 2 and your 4 in, 2 at the bottom, 4 at the top, and everything else gets filled in depending on what your A, B, and C are. Okay, B is negative 10. A is 1 and 1, and C is 13. All right, so we have x equals positive 10, because a negative and a negative make a positive. Positive 10 plus or minus the square root of negative 10 times negative 10 is 100. 4 times 13 is 52. And it's going to be minus 52 because there's only one minus sign. There's no other negative to undo it, so it's going to stay minus all over 2. As tempting as it is, do not reduce. 10 plus or minus 100 minus 52 is 48, all over 2. Now typically I would break down the 48, take out its pairs and reduce, but since it's at decimal form, I'm going to plug the square root of 48 in my calculator. Second square root, 48, 6.93 when I round, 6.93. So I have 10 plus or minus 6.93 divide by 2. So I'm going to do 10 plus 6.93 divided by 2, and 10 minus 6.93 and divide it by 2. And you're just plugging that in your calculator. So if you're thinking, oh my goodness, that's so hard, it's not, because you're just plugging it in your calculator. 10 plus 6.93, and if you can't see my screen, you can do it on your own, equals, divide by 2. I get 8.465, 8.47, comma, and 10 minus 6.93 equals, divide by 2. I end up with 1.535, so 1.54. Okay, decimal values. Now, typically we don't write our answers like that unless they were asking us to, like they did here, or if we were graphing. If we were graphing, we would write our answers like that and plot those on a graph. Okay, find the axis of symmetry. I'll do number 8, and find the vertex. Now, I told you in notes they flipped it around. Typically, we find the axis of symmetry first and then the vertex. And the formula was negative b over 2a for the axis of symmetry. A is 3, B is negative 12. Opposite of B over 2A. B is negative 12. A is 3, so I have the opposite of negative 12, which is positive 12, divided by 2 times 3 is 6, which is 2. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 2. I find that first. My axis of symmetry is this negative b over 2a. And then if you remember, we've been doing this since last unit, we plug it in to find the vertex, because the vertex will be 2 comma blank, and we plug in the 2 to find the vertex. I'm going to change that to y. 3 blank squared minus 12 blank plus 5. And I'm going to plug in the x equals 2. Order of operation, I do 2 squared, which is 4. So I have 3 times 4 minus 24 plus 5. That gives me 12 minus 24 plus 5. And then 12 minus 24 is negative 12 plus 5, which is negative 7. Y equals negative 7, so 2 comma negative 7 is my vertex. Okay, and then I'm going to do number 9. I told you in notes there would be a word problem. Now this word problem does come up on the quiz and the test, so you want to make sure you know how to do it. Okay, this is the and applications. Solve the following word problem. Include correct units in your answer. The profit from a t-shirt sale fundraiser depends on the t-shirt price and can be modeled by this function, where T is the price per t-shirt and P is the profit, both measured in dollars. What t-shirt price yields the max profit? What is the max profit? Now, we did one just like this on our previous unit. Now, if you remember, I'm going to do a quick sketch. We did something like this. We knew our parabola was opening downward like this. And I gave you guys an example in class about selling pizza by the slice, that if you are selling it too cheap, you're going to lose money. There's going to be a point where you break even, and then a point where you're making money, and then the best point to be is to make the most amount of money, your maximum. We've talked about that in class before. Okay, now when we did these in our last unit, we were able to look at this and say, oh, the opposite of the inside, the outside stays the same, find your vertex. And after we found the vertex, we were able to answer these two quickly. Now, what's different about this one in the last unit is this is not in vertex form. Do I still need to find the vertex? Yes. Is it as easy as it was in the last unit? No, but we have shortcuts, we have tools, and we just did it right here in this problem. You have choices. You could complete the square. I will tell you right now that's going to be a lot more difficult than using your shortcut. It did not say write in vertex form. If it said write in vertex form, then you would have to complete the square. But since all I'm looking for is the vertex, I can use the shortcut, which is negative b over 2a. So when you're solving a word problem and you're looking for the vertex, you are going to use your negative b over 2a. Okay, a is negative 15, b is 600, so I'm going to put 600 over 2 times negative 15. So that is negative 600 divided by negative 30. Divide and you get x equals 20. And then how do we find the y value? Just like we did on the previous problem, we plug it in. And I'm hoping you know that already because we've been doing that for quite some time. P equals negative 15 parentheses squared plus 600 parentheses plus 50. And what are we plugging in? We're plugging in this 20 to see what our y value or p value would be. Okay, 20 squared is 400 plus, you get 12,000 and then plus 50. And negative 15 times 400 comes out to be negative 6,000 plus 12,000 plus 50. And you can plug all that in your calculator. I'll plug it in right now. Plus 12,000 plus 50 comes out to be 6,050. 6,050. Okay, what is what? We do need to make sure we know. The profit of t-shirts fundraised depends on t-shirt price, so this is our price per shirt, and can be modeled by this function where t is the price per shirt and p is the profit. Okay, so that's the price, that's the profit. So $20 per shirt, and the max profit is $6,050. Now we can go and answer the questions. Okay, what t-shirt price yields the max profit? Is that the 20 or the 6,050? That would be $20. $20 per t-shirt would maximize the profit. What is the maximum profit? That's your 6,050. All right. That is it for this set of homework questions.